a sensor on the garden. Although my judgment's known to fail, once built a steamboat.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam if you are new here. It's been a little bit of a minute since I uploaded, so I'm feeling a little bit rusty, but also very excited to be sitting down and filming a new video for you guys. I took to Instagram about 2 weeks ago and asked you if you had any questions for a personal Q&A update type of vlog, and I got some questions. So I thought it would be a good time for a good old-fashioned update, life update. The last time I spoke with you guys, I believe I was working creatively still. I was working remotely. I had just moved back home to the Bay Area, and it's really hard to believe that we are almost 6 months into 2020. 2020 has been a whirlwind. So I started 2020 off needing a new job. I was on the job hunt and it was pretty stressful. I spent the entire month of January just with my head in my computer job hunting. As you guys know, I work in the creative field, and so that is really what I was looking for. I was looking for a full-time opportunity in like digital marketing, social media marketing. Went on a couple of interviews and creative and non-creative work, and there was one opportunity that was going to require me to have to commute like over an hour basically to Sonoma. While it was a really great opportunity, the company itself didn't feel super right for me, so I ended up going with a job that was super local to my city that I live in, and the commute for me right now is like amazing. The downside is that it's not a creative position, including the very short commute and amongst many other factors. Like, I had a huge pros and cons list. I ultimately decided to go with the job that I'm currently at right now. So I've been at my new job since February. So I started at the beginning of February. It's crazy. I will just say that it's an accounting firm. So I currently work at an accounting firm, and it's been really interesting how much I've learned about accounting and the tax world and just the IRS and everything in that realm. It was very new to me. It's interesting because in my interview they were like, yeah, normally we would have just tossed your resume, but they told me that they hire based on people. And so yeah, so that was really cool to hear, and I accepted the offer of employment. So that sort of puts us into February and March, when things were really starting to gear up in my job for tax season. So I was really just, you know, deep diving into the firm and learning as much as I could and preparing for a very, very crazy tax season, because tax season is always crazy, and was just preparing for it in the ways that they were teaching me to prepare for it. And then, as you guys know, things very much escalated with the coronavirus, and that changed things a lot for our firm. Once the first lockdown or shelter in place happened in the county that I live in, it was really unclear as to whether or not we were considered essential. My firm basically shut its doors for 2 weeks and we were sent home. It's a long story, but there were many different orders, and the county and the state were basically just pointing fingers at each other, and we needed, like, the firm basically needed a much more definitive statement of, yes, you know, it's okay to stay open right now. And because we didn't have that, we went home. And after about 2 weeks, we came back. I have been working on site ever since. full time. It's difficult because we have to wear masks, and I often will choose to wear gloves because I'm constantly like dealing with mail and stuff that is coming in from outside. I choose to, you know, protect myself in that way. As with many businesses, my firm had to readjust and rethink everything, especially, you know, how we were ready and geared up for tax season. Pretty much did a complete 360 or 180, and, you know, everything needed to be adjusted in some way. We were also dealing with updates from the IRS in regards to all of the tax deadline changes that were happening or not happening, and it was a stressful time, but we are kind of finally at a place now where we're just going to work, doing our jobs, even amongst, you know, a lockdown. I feel so lucky and grateful to still be working. I know how many people are not working anymore. I know how many businesses have gone under. I feel immensely grateful to be getting up every day and going to a job. Like, I'm very grateful, and yeah, it feels like exposing, but I don't know what I would do if I didn't have my job. So there are so many essential workers out there doing things far more exposing than I am. So I'm immensely grateful for the company that I work for and the people that I work for. I feel a sense of respect, and they treat me like I'm family. And especially during this trying time, that sense of support has been really beautiful, and I really appreciate it. That was like a long-winded update, but it really answers the first question that I got on Instagram, which was from my friend Jim. He said, how are you spending quarantine/lockdown? And that pretty much sums up the answer, which is I am working 40 hours a week as an essential worker at an accounting firm. Like I mentioned, there were 2 weeks that I was at home. I was still being paid, which was wonderful, and so I did get like a little sense of quarantine or self-isolation for 2 weeks, and really I just spent my time relaxing. I think we were all, things with the virus and the, you know, first shelter in place had just started, and so things were feeling very heavy and tense, and so I spent a majority of those 2 weeks just relaxing, practicing lots of self-care, and just you know, being gentle with myself. That's sort of a work update. As you guys know, I love what I do. I love working creatively, and it's definitely my overall goal to be back in the industry of creating. But right now, I'm just sort of not in that field at the moment, and I'm okay with that. I've, you know, had to work through and process some emotions surrounding that, but this is kind of the best thing that I need right now for myself financially and also just mentally. You know, I would never ever step away from working creatively. Like, it's what I studied in school, it's what I love, it's what I'm doing right now, it's my passion for sure. Working creatively to pay my bills is something that I am not giving up on, and I never will give up on. It's just not sort of right for me in this given moment. So next question, what's the most annoying thing about this pandemic while trying to be creative? This question was from my friend Erin. In a way, the pandemic has not really brought me a crazy amount of like frustration in regards to being creative. If anything, it's sort of forced me to be with myself more and be in solitude, and I've been watching a lot more movies and watching a lot more shows that feel right and feel inspiring, and I've also been reading a lot more, and so I do feel like I am really looking to inspiration more so than I have in a while. However, right now, something that is annoying and is frustrating for me is that I have not been able to find a balance between working 40 hours a week and also doing this, you know, part-time or on the side. Being creative some way is super, super important to me, and I've really struggled over the past couple of months, as you guys can tell with the lack of content, to find a balance between working that much and then also working on the weekends. That's a lot of work and it's not something that I've quite figured out yet, because as you guys know, I also deal with a lot of chronic pain, and oftentimes my weekends are spent sort of mostly treating my chronic pain. But you know, I'm very optimistic in finding a balance, and it's still like super, super important to me. Murphy. One thing that has been annoying is not being able to go out into the world. I found a lot of inspiration in the fall months, like last fall, going to coffee shops and being out in the world, being around people. That was like really, really inspiring, and something that I totally took for granted, because when the pandemic happened, or when the shelter in place began, you know, that essentially stopped. And so not being able to just leave my house and go to a coffee shop and plug into my computer creatively on the weekends is hard. Having that taken away was, you know, that sucked, and it's annoying. But I look at, you know, all of the things that I'm dealing with and all of the problems that I have, and I recognize that they matter, but I also know in the grand scheme of things that they're small. And I keep reminding myself that, and how grateful I am to be working and supporting myself. I read somewhere that, and this made so much sense to me, it was like, it's a privilege to be bored right now. Like, you know, I wouldn't say that I'm bored. I'm hustling my butt off 40 hours a week to my job. But on the weekends, you know, I have the privilege of recuperating for the next week ahead and going back to my job on Monday. So yeah, I'm just trying to take everything one day at a time. I think that's the best we can do right now. I've always sort of said this to people who have asked me about creative work and making the time for it, and I think this applies more now than ever, is to really take time to treat this as if it was your job. Because right now, maybe the inspiration isn't necessarily going to come to you like it has in the past, or like you want it to, and maybe that's making you feel down. In that regard, it is important to adopt a more stricter type of work ethic, because it's important to stay creative and stay creating, because if the longer you go without creating, the harder it is to get back into it. And so sort of treating it as a job, like, okay, from this time to this time on this day, I am doing my creative work. I'm devoting time and energy to this project, no matter what. I think sometimes we have to implement a stricter approach to it, especially when inspiration is not free-flowing through us. And sometimes when I like force myself to be creative and to just get into it, little things surprise me, and I always end up feeling like a little bit better about myself, and I always find that products, you know, the finished product might surprise me than, you know, the mindset that I originally went into making it. I feel positive and I feel optimistic, and I think that is definitely a privilege right now, to be feeling those things and to feel comfort in the future and trust and faith in my future. That is definitely a privilege, and I recognize that, and that's my personal Q&A update for you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any other questions for me, I'd love to do maybe like a part 2 to this Q&A, because I think that there are some other little updates that I could touch on, although I think this video is long enough. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing a part 2, I'd be down to film that, and you can leave any questions in the comments of this video. Anyways, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys are well. Please leave a comment down below also telling me how you are, what's new with you, what changes have happened in your life, what struggles are you going through, what accomplishments have you made. I want to know the good and the bad if you're willing to share with me. Yeah, okay, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
A sensor on the garden. Although my judgment's known to fail, once built a steamboat